Anyone feeling pressed for time? Just a little bit anxious about the time you're taking away from work to be here today? I'm sure you're looking around the room at the fantastic people, looking forward to the sessions you'll be going to. Believe me, I was so looking forward to having 2 days with you, and I'm really gutted that I'm only able to join online. But I'll confess, when deciding to go to conferences, there's also that other voice in my head that's a of being constantly stretched. Our lives make it hard to find time to come to events like this. In my time leading improvement in frontline and national organisations, I've seen how difficult it is at every level for people to take the time that they need to learn. And indeed, that's led me into my current role, where we're running a £1 million initiative that's designed around what hundreds of improvers said they most needed to accelerate their impact. Easier ways to learn, share, and collaborate. And the journey that I've been on has helped me see that it's precisely because of the pressures we're under that we have to prioritise time like this. Not just because it will be resilience-boosting fun, but because it's the only way we can stop wasting our time, our most precious resource, reinventing the wheel. My gift for you over the next 40 minutes is to help you let go of any time-anxious voices in your head and get us all set up to make the most of this amazing forum, comfortable that you'll look back on the next 2 days as critical to delivering what you need to for those you serve. I'm going to start by explore what makes us so busy and the human and strategic impact that has if it stops us looking up and out. I'm going to give you some practical tips and tools for connecting with the people and information that will be useful to your work, and think about how we take that to scale when working across organisations and systems. This is going to be a pretty interactive session. At least a third of our time will be devoted to you sharing with each other, making visible the riches in the room. How does that sound? Okay, let's start by spending a few minutes reflecting on why, as improvers, we're often so busy. I lead a network of over 3,500 people involved in improvement in the UK. And when we ask them, lack of time is consistently one of the top things they say is holding us back. Partly that's because improvement is often expected to be done in the margins with limited protected time. Partly feeling stretched reflects the wider world we're in. You don't need to look far before we're reminded of the ever-accelerating pace of change in terms of new technologies and treatments, and the slower burn but significant shifts being driven by changing demographics. So that as improvers these days, we're faced with tackling those kind of big, hairy design challenges, like how to integrate care around the needs of those with multiple long-term conditions. There are some particular dynamics going on in terms of why we're so busy managing healthcare. If you're into improving flow, you'll know we're stuck in a system where we're responding to the demands on us in a way that's often actually increasing work and amplifying variation. Rather than designing services that get upstream and give people what they need when they need it, we keep people waiting, creating backlogs that need to be managed, adding to the demands that services are under. This is contributing to a vicious cycle where our time is absorbed in firefighting and just keeping the show on the road, taking away the precious capacity we need to actually fix the problems we see around us. And it's not like there's a lack of ideas and approaches available to us to help us improve. Say I was faced with a particular challenge I wanted to crack. Say I was looking to improve transitions in care between departments or organisations. Now, there's a whole load of things that could help me, whether that's articles or the expertise in the room. For example, process mapping might be helpful. How many people here have some experience of that? Have a show of hands? Maybe capacity and demand modelling. How about Experience-based co-design, has that made it to Canada? Bundles, perhaps? And there's a wealth of other potentially useful techniques too. The Health Foundation, where I work, has helped to demonstrate that for improvement to be successful, you need to bring together a whole range of skills and perspectives. Indeed, if we don't, we risk creating lopsided solutions that end up falling short of expectations. When I'm doing improvement work, I know I want to bring everything I can to it. That commitment to what we're doing is in the DNA of many of us as improvers. But committed as I am, I know that all too often my approach will be more depressingly like my experience of cooking for my kids. In my mind, I always think I'm going to be the model mother. I'm going to make the most nutritious and balanced meal for my kids that will be so delicious yet fun that they give up calling for sweets and crisps on the spot, convinced of the appeal of raw vegetables. But in reality, we're often out doing other things. I'm short of time to shop and end up using what's in the cupboard and that I know will go down okay and is within my cooking skill set. It would be tempting when faced with the complexity in the world around us and all the pressing challenges in the health system to focus in on our bit, addressing the most pressing symptom and issues, using the scarce time you're able to carve out for improving services to get on with it, with the tills you have to hand, rather than researching what's happened elsewhere or bringing in new ingredients when you're less sure how they will go down. Yet, we do that at our peril. There's a fabulous academic in the UK called Mary Dixon Woods, who the Health Foundation has backed to set up a £40 million institute at Cambridge University to understand and develop the science of improvement. I've written a blog to go along with this presentation, and I've included links to everything I'm referring to. So if you haven't read her work yet, I'd really recommend it. Through work that we did together with sites working on safety in clinical systems, Mary has been able to shine a light on the way that frontline teams get absorbed in tackling the messy complexity of the worlds that we work in. We rarely invest enough time in researching what others have done, often in our haste, reaching for interventions that have been shown elsewhere not to work, or doing things that could work, but need certain things in place for that to happen. Mary has gone on to argue that, at least in the UK, we're often tackling improvement challenges at the wrong scale. And there are times when local problem-solving ethos QI can actually create inconsistencies that lead to harm. At the very least, we miss the opportunity to adopt widely what's known to be best. When we think about the scale of the challenges facing healthcare, surely they demand both that we take a holistic view of what's needed beyond individual sectors and make sure the ideas and passion that we put into projects go on to benefit as many people as possible, rather than being trapped in the first place that tested them. I'm sure many of you may have come across this cartoon before. I think it sums up beautifully what I'm hoping I've got across so far. Yes, we're busy, but we're doing ourselves no favours if that stops us from improving and learning. And what I love about this cartoon is that it brings together both of those processes, improvement and learning. Don Bowick led a review a few years back into what it would take to improve the NHS in England, following a major failing in care in a hospital. He argued that what was needed was to create a system devoted to continual learning and improvement. Now, the learning he was talking about there was partly the process of review and reflection that's key to a healthy safety culture. But I think this is also about the imperative to learning and sharing between places so that we can make our ideas spread much further. This quote has become a reference point for the work I and others do at the Health Foundation, because it brings home to me how we don't get real improvement at the scale and sustainability that we need unless we pay serious attention to how we learn with each other as we do. Now, this quote is pretty big picture. In a bit, I'll come back to how we achieve learning and sharing at scale. But ultimately, this starts and ends with individuals. So let's bring this back to us and to our time together over the next 2 days. There is a wealth of stuff at this conference to help you address the challenges in healthcare. Clearly you're here, so you see the case for investing time in learning more. But if you're anything like me, you might also have a voice of doubt in your mind, reminding you of the times when you saw fantastic ideas in an article or inspirational case examples at a conference, but then struggled to actually use them to change practice back at the ranch. Just as there's a method to improvement, there's a method to learning and adapting well. And that starts with the microstructures of how we work together when we have that precious time and space to share and collaborate. This is particularly true in the world of improvement because we know that much of what we're doing is context specific. If we were chemical engineers, then the task of sharing learning might be more about the accurate transmission of formulae. In improvement, success depends on practical wisdom, the nous that combines what's known with all of the insights and experience needed to make change happen in an organisation. And this sort of wisdom doesn't travel very well in the form of case studies or articles, unfortunately. It travels much more by word of mouth through human connections. So paying attention to how we network and connect pays dividends. How many of you have tried liberating structures here? They're a freely available set of methods, and they're spreading fast through the improvement community in the UK. There are 33 methods that can be used in isolation or in combination to organise your time together in a way that's more productive, more participative. Whether you want to rapidly come up with ideas in a group, dig deeper into what's really going on, or prioritise action on a stubborn challenge, there's a liberating structure that can help. In a somewhat similar vein, the Q community in the UK that I lead has developed a set of cards that give you methods from the world of design and innovation for working with others to pull what you know and creatively solve problems. As a teaser, 1 or 2 of the 25 cards should be on each of your tables, and I'm going to tell you later how you can get your hands on the full set. Going deeper, we've developed an improvement lab that brings together people to solve complex challenges. Through the lab, we've developed a map of the key skills that people need to address problems collaboratively. These are slides that are just a taster. There's lots of tools and methods out there. Whatever method you use, effective learning relies on people being purposeful about it, treating sharing as real work, an essential part of any improvement process. Good methods can help you find purpose and focus without closing off serendipity, recognizing that the insight you need may come in many forms. While you may find what you're looking for through the taught sessions at this conference, time and again it's the networking and the chance encounters at events that people look back on as most valuable in the months to come. That's because it's not just the presenters who have learning to offer. The 1,000 people in this room who share your passion for improving healthcare have ideas and expertise that could unlock the things you're wrestling with. We're going to do an exercise now that helps make what we all know a bit more visible to each other, the first step to making wider and better use of it. Once we get going, believe me, it's going to be hard to get you to stop, but this exercise will only work if we do stop and move on at key points. And that means everyone in this room is going to need to stop talking when I ask. So we are going to have a quick practice. I'm going to ask you to talk, and then I'm going to put up a different sign and you're all going to stop. Okay, so talk. Everyone talk. Yeah, and stop. Okay, try again. So talk. Okay, and stop. Right, nearly there, one more time. Everybody talk. Come on, talk. Okay, and stop. Great, and please give yourself a quick round of applause for making me feel so powerful. Okay, thank you. Right, let's move on and do this for real now. We're going to do an exercise in 3 parts. I'm going to first ask you to write down 3 things you might want to learn and share with others here today. You'll discuss these with your neighbour, and a bit later, I'm going to ask you to pick one of the things you want to know more about and one of the things you want to share and expand on it a bit so that it can be used for an exercise where we share ideas across the room. On your table, you'll see an A4 sheet that looks like this. Okay, so this is what you need for the first step. In a moment, I'm going to ask you to write up to 3 things you know something about and 3 things that you'd like to know more about. You don't have to have a PhD in something to write it down. And it doesn't only have to be things that are narrowly work-related. Sometimes it's sharing experience from your piano or origami skills that sparks a useful connection. To give you an example, as you're thinking, here's what I've put down. So I know a bit about improving patient flow, designing networks, and making beans on toast. And I'd love to know more about involving service users in improvement, how people collaborate, and creative event design. Don't agonize about it. Take a minute to write things down and then speak to your neighbour. So one of you takes a minute or 2 to introduce what you've written and then swap. Okay, go. Okay, so you might want to start speaking to each other now. You don't have to come up with 3 in each category. Just start speaking to your neighbour about what you put. Okay, so it's really hard for me to read the mood in the room. I'm sure you'd like to continue speaking, but stop now. We're going to move on. We're going to move on. Thank you. I hope that's whetted your appetite for the practical value of sharing and the knowledge that's in the room. We'll be coming back to those sheets in a bit, so please keep them in front of you. Now, so far I talked about why we need to prioritise learning from what's already known as we do our improvement work, so that we avoid being left with lopsided solutions or great ideas never benefit others. I've flagged a few methods that you can use to oil the wheels of this process. I want to step back now and think about the scale at which we need to make sharing happen. There's a kaleidoscopic range of ways in which we provide and receive care, and therefore many ways care can be improved. It's a broad field, but there will be others out there with similar focus and passion as you. The pressures of the health service means that we can ill afford to repeat work others have already done. There are many reasons why making the most of all of the ideas that can improve care is essential for the sustainability of our own work, the work of our organisations and the system as a whole. I want to focus here. This is Lucas, my son. This photo was taken when he was a few days old. He was born with jaundice and a minor infection, which meant that we needed to spend the first week of his life in hospital. We were here in St Thomas's Hospital. The maternity unit is on the 8th floor overlooking our Parliament from the other side of the Thames. It was the first week of December in 2010, and there was deep snow outside. Well, there were about 3 centimetres of snow, so quite deep for London. Now, when I wasn't gazing at my newborn child in his light box or trying and failing to get some sleep, I had a lot of time to watch what was going on. Try as I might to focus on motherhood, I guess, like many of us improvers, the bit of my brain that's always spotting opportunities for system change unavoidably kicked in. I've spent a lot of my career looking at how hospitals are organised, and I could see both great stuff and, even in a highly respected maternity service, areas where the team could learn from elsewhere. So, for example, there were clear challenges with the systems and culture for team handover, and the process for Lucas receiving antibiotics was different with every dose. I led the Foundation's patient safety work for 2 years, and I met people through that for whom personal tragedy as a result of healthcare had led them to commit their lives to addressing specific failings in care. Lucas recovered from his infection. He's now a healthy, constantly active 9-year-old. I'm blessed that my story is not one of tragedy. The course of our lives didn't change as a result of our stay in St Thomas's. But I find my memory of that week in hospital still comes back to me often, not in relation to a specific failing in care, but in thinking about all the ways in which we could do better. Because I was suddenly responsible for a new being and therefore so alert to everything that could go wrong, it was at that point that the real implications of our failure to learn and share came home to me. It means service users like me and my son and everyone else in that and every hospital there receive care that is less than what we collectively know how to provide. When I think back, I get impatient because it seems a long time since this young man was a baby. And we've been talking about the challenges of spreading improvement for decades, yet I don't see the health system as a whole getting much better at it. Over the years, I've learned that sharing is far from easy in a complex system, yet at the same time, my understanding of the urgent need to get better at this on a grander scale has increased. This is partly because I work in a charity where we're constantly seeing great ideas fail to spread beyond the place where they're conceived. But it's also because suddenly as a parent, my sense of concern about everything I can worry about seems to have gone into overdrive. Getting upstream at improving how we learn and share is the only thing that makes sense to me now, given the breadth of things I now find I have the capacity to worry about. I don't just want to improve maternity services at one hospital in London. Who knows what part of his body my sport-obsessed son might damage yet next. As you'll see from the photos, Lucas now has a sister, and although I don't like to think about it, I know they'll both have many different health problems over the decades ahead. I'm quite keen on their father too, and parenthood hasn't yet made me so insular that I don't give a passing thought to all the other people I know and those I don't. And I'm here, or I would be if I could have sorted out my flight properly, because I know that many of the challenges healthcare faces are shared in most countries of the world. So for me, getting better at learning and sharing individually and in the teams and organisations we work in, and then across whole districts and countries, is a moral imperative. It's ultimately about making it easier for all of the thousands of people working in every part of our health system to feel confident that they are giving those we serve the best possible care based on the best of what we all know. So if we need to share at scale across many different fronts, how do we do this? Well, there's lots that the Health Foundation has done over the years that speaks to this. If you're thinking about this in your department or organisation, we've shared examples of providers that are embedding learning improvement as a core strategy. In the UK, there's a lot of interest in how we move from individual improvement projects to a quality management system. And the most mature versions of this, like this model from Scotland, has at its heart a learning system, a way of making sure that within and between organisations, there are easy ways to find and exchange data and examples with proper time given for building relationships. Networks are the way of organising that's particularly well suited to enabling the sort of organic cross-boundary exchange of ideas and practical wisdom that's key to effective improvement. There's lots to learn about how to design networks well. My blog gives a link to a useful report. We've taken our learning on that to scale with the Q community. This is a major initiative from the Health Foundation, backed by governments of all countries in the UK and Ireland. We're creating a connected community of thousands of people involved in improvement from all backgrounds, supported not just by a website and networking and development events, but with a linked grant funding programme designed to inspire curiosity and sharing, and a network of improvement labs where people and organisations work together to tackle complex shared challenges. The evaluation of Q is showing that we're enabling thousands of connections across professions and places that wouldn't have happened otherwise. Members tell us these connections give them resilience and access to new skills, as well as practical ideas that are saving their organisation's time. The community helps shape and then votes for projects that they think should receive funding. And that surfaced some really interesting ideas, from creating panels of QI-trained patients to give advice on improvement projects, to a time bank that allows people to exchange skills between organisations in a way that's much more time efficient. We've agreed a 10-year strategy for Q, representing an investment and learning and sharing across a whole country's health system that we think is unprecedented internationally. What we've learned on the way is that learning and sharing should be a core component of improvement work that needs method and thought just as much as improvement does. There are useful tools and methods out there, whether you're thinking about how to improve how you work individually with a few others, are seeking to scale change in your organisation through your professional network or across your region. At whatever level, one key principle for me is that a well-designed process and structure helps, whether that's a website or a facilitation method. But as with improvement, it's at least as much art as science, and works much better when built around the creativity and flexibility of people, rather than trusting to knowledge management databases or the written word alone. It's a bit like a body. We need the structure of the skeleton, but also the warm circulation of ideas and connections that only work through less rigid structures. Let's do an exercise now that reflects that balance, a bit of structure and process with a good dose of trusting to human curiosity and willingness to share generously and connect what's important. So we'll come back now to the list of things that you wrote earlier. If you remember from before, the next step is to take one of the things you know about and one of the things you want to learn more about and write a sentence or two on the yellow and blue A5 sheets on your table. Yellow for things to learn and blue for things to share. It doesn't need to be an essay, but just a bit more detail to help whoever reads it understand the essence of what it's about. And add an easy way to contact you at the bottom. So, for example, I picked patient involvement in improvement from my earlier sheet. I've just expanded it to say that I'm interested in examples of methods that have been used to involve patients and service users, and in the development needs for all involved in making patient participation work well. There's space at the bottom to add your name and a way of contacting you. Twitter works for me. Email or phone is also fine, though this exercise will mean the details are shared freely amongst those at this conference, and they may find their way onto social media. So we'll ask people to think before they share on contact details, but just bear that in mind. Okay, so I hope that's clear. Choose one thing from each side of your white sheet now and write them on the blue and yellow sheets on your table. Okay, you've got a couple of minutes. Go. Okay, is that okay? Have people written down something? Stop, thank you. Now, there are a few parts to the third section of this exercise that I'm going to explain step by step. The first step is to screw up your yellow and blue bits of paper. This is not because they are not important, but because your ideas and desires deserve to travel far. Okay, do that now. You screen them up. Okay, now don't do the next bit until I've explained all of this. In a moment, I'm going to ask you to throw your balls of paper in the air. Then leave your seat and pick up two. It doesn't matter which colours, don't open them. And then I'm going to ask you to pass them on to someone you don't know. Now, what's written on these pieces of paper are things that people in this room care about. So pass it on as the great gift of knowledge or curiosity that these are. So do it like this. Look the person in the eye and hand it over to them with affection and meaning. Okay, now we're each going to do that 3 times, each time to someone you don't know. Then I'm going to ask you to take a seat, either your own or one nearby, and read what you've got. Clear enough? Believe me, this is going to work. Okay, so on the count of 3, 1, 2, 3, throw! Now go, get up, walk, pick it up, pass it on. There's some people who clearly like the throwing bit. Okay, so once you've done that 3 times, take a seat. Okay. Thank you. If everyone could sit down now. Just take a seat. You'll have an opportunity to read them in a moment. Could we stop throwing them, please? Okay, is there anybody, do I need my special sign again? If you wouldn't mind taking your seat now, we'll get you back talking again in a moment. Okay. Now, what was the point of that? Well, my hope is that, say, 50 or 100 of the 2,000 odd bits of paper in this room will end up finding an answer or connection that helps their work progress. That might be over the next few days, or it might be a conversational contact that follows in a few weeks or months later. It's often like that way in networks, isn't it? Now, this isn't a precise science, and it's about more than trying to piece together offers and wants exactly. We're not going to be performance managing you on the proportion of sheets in the room that are adequately filed with a relevant recipient. You might be the one to find something helpful to you or feel the joy of helping others get access to what they need. The conversations you have might inspire new connections that are helpful in other ways. And as you hear other examples on your table in a moment, think about any common patterns or new ideas in the mix of things that people are interested in. If nothing else, watching that snowstorm, listening to the conversation we're about to end with, can give us pause to reflect at the start of this fantastic conference on the riches of knowledge that are in the room. And because you look like a lovely collaborative lot, but you work in healthcare, which is also deeply competitive if you scratch beneath the surface, we thought we'd experiment with a bit of an incentive. So if you help pass something on, add your name or your Twitter handle to the back of the sheet. If you find a useful connection between 2 or more people, tweet a few details of what it is and thank anyone who helped make the connection, not forgetting to include the event hashtag. You can tweet or use whatever means you can think of to help connect people with information that might be useful to them. You don't need to limit yourself to those in the room. Once you've connected at least someone with something of use, come to the Quality Forum stand where we have 100 full packs of the cards that were on your table to give away. Now, if you happen to be the 101st person to make a useful connection, then I'm afraid you will go home without this freely downloadable resource and have to put up with only having helped you or others improve care more quickly or effectively. Okay, so fired up by the prospect of hearing more about what others have to offer and want to learn about, we'll have a last bit of interaction now. Go round your table and everyone read out the things that are on the bits of paper that they have. You never know, you might even spark a few connections right away. Okay, go. I'm sorry. My worst bit of my job is telling people to stop. We will get you back talking again, but I'm really keen not to delay the conference. We will be ending this session in just a moment. You'll be able to get back into conversation as you go off to your first session. I just wanted to end by saying how great it is to hear a little bit of the energy in the room just now as you were sharing and talking about the things that are important to you as a community, thinking purposefully about what we each have to bring and want to learn more about and how we can help each other. I hope you found in the last 40 minutes a few things that might help you make the most of the 960 minutes remaining of this conference and feel confident that there's nowhere more important that you could be right now in your quest to improve healthcare. Taking time to learn is a core part of our work as improvers, and sharing is the only way we'll scale up the ambition and rate of change in the way that we need to. Just think what these 960 minutes could do to make the most of the 104,000 minutes that you might spend working over the rest of this year. Thank you.